Here we are. We are completely set up, and good evening to you, Cryptic. Welcome, welcome. Let me just make sure that everything loaded a-okay. Do. Oh, that's cute. Somebody approves of my social speeds. But in any case, hello, and usual spiel goes here. Welcome to yet another edition of Night Rights. If this is your first time, I'm kind of shocked and surprised. Welcome. Consider clicking the link if you're on Blue Sky so that you can join us in our open chat. My name is Jax. I am a fantasy writer and your host for this evening. Night Rights is, if this is again your first time, it's a very chill little chat. There is an open chat, as I've mentioned. There are very limited rules to the chat. Basically, be excellent to each other and don't do anything that violates the YouTube TOS. Yeah, basically, type words in and I read them aloud and respond to them eventually. You can talk amongst yourselves, you can talk to me, whatever you would like. If you're shy, we do have an icebreaker. That is a writing question that we have every week. Tonight's icebreaker is how do you dive into a new draft or a work in progress? This incidentally was inspired by the fact that we are currently in Rosh Hashanah. So to my fellow Jews who might be listening, Shana Tova. Also, yes, I have not lied. There are actual writing sprints. You will see a timer on the bottom left of your screen. That is a timer for 20 minutes. We will start at 9 p.m. And basically, what these sprints are is you do whatever you want during these sprints, so long as you're doing some kind of something. I don't even want to call it work. I've had people who have just chilled out for 20 minutes, and that is a-okay. At the end of 20 minutes, we stop and discuss our progress. For writers, that is your word count. For editors, that is also your word count, whatever you'd like to do. For anybody else, just say whatever you'd like. Then we pause for some time period and chat and relax and dive back into a second word sprint. We do this 3 times in the night, and at the end, we just wrap up and say goodnight for the next time around. But anyway, that having been said, the first half an hour is usually for shooting the shit and allowing people to filter in as the night progresses. Hey, Oakleaf. Welcome back. See, this is why we pause and don't immediately start into word sprints. There will be people filtering in here and there, and we would like to welcome them in and allow folks to chill for a little bit. So, that having been said, I realized that the surprise stream never materialized. That is because I have a shit memory and completely forgot to do one. But, Cryptic says, to answer the icebreaker, I kind of just fall into this obsession with a new little guy, and then that's just kind of my life for the next 3 months. That is totally fair. That is also how I do things. I definitely did not abandon works in progress for that reason. I don't know what you're talking about. But that's basically my answer to, like I said, there's a little bit more planning into it. Like, I obsess over an idea, but at the same time, like, I need to do all the world building and all the outlining first. So I will sit there for like months on end doing all these notes until I'm like, yeah, I should probably start writing at some point. And then I start writing. And that goes for every single draft. Like, even I usually do like a pause between drafts unless it's real shit. The draft I'm working on is real shit, and I'm like, I need to restart this immediately. But like, between drafts, I will always pause and think about what I need to do, and that turns into another pack of notes, which then turns into more outlining, and then I dive back into the next draft. Cryptic says, or a previous little guy I'm coming back to, but less so. Oakleaf says, icebreaker. Similarly to Cryptic, sometimes I have a seed of an idea when I start, but just as often I sit down and start writing and see what happens. I have a terrible time with rewriting or drafts. I'd want to write new idea, lol. That is totally understandable. I have definitely not abandoned works in progress for this reason. um, there we go. Crack open window. Oakley says, I cannot outline for my life. I have broken down every book I've ever outlined. Totally okay. Outlining is such a weird process. I have seen people do, like, you know how sometimes you're following a writing influencer and all of a sudden they have a wall full of sticky notes? That's an outline to them. And then I know some people who are like, I have Excel spreadsheets doing outlines, breaking every chapter down into beats, and I'm like, you know what? I have tried to break my story down into beats, like summarize each chapter in terms of in like one sentence or something like that, and it does not work. Brevity is not the soul of if brevity is the soul of wit, then I'm a dumbass. um, but the point is, like, I feel like the main point of an outline is to give you an idea of what you want to do when you're writing. And not everybody writes with a plan in mind. Like, I also know plenty of pantsers, aka people who just dive into a draft, no plan, YOLOing it. I have also, like, met at least one person, and this is, I admire. Okay, so there's this one person I knew on Tumblr who I don't know how they did this. I admire them and envy them for this. But basically, they weren't just pantsers. They were the kind of pantser who wrote scenes out of order and still came out with a coherent story. I'm like, how? How? I need to write in order, because if I don't write in order, then that scene that I wrote for like chapter 20 is going to be completely irrelevant in like 2 weeks from now whenever I go back to chapter 5 and accidentally have my characters do something completely off the wall. So yeah, I don't understand. The main point is everybody has a different way of writing, and this is why I understand the entire idea of reading craft books, like sitting down and reading books about writing. I have a single craft book, like an actual craft book that isn't one of my textbooks for teaching me how to be an editor, because that's a completely different. Like, I have plenty of books about being an editor, and they are all so fucking helpful, believe me. But like craft books, I don't buy into that often. Like, to me, it's like writing advice. Like, sure, Save the Cat might work for a lot of people, but I don't know if it'll work for everybody. Same thing with the entire concept of the three-act structure. Uh, it's something that I'm trying right now, but to tighten things up. But like, I understand if it doesn't work for everybody. I have a story where it's not going to work at all, that I hope to get back to at some point. But like, the main point is, and this is actually kind of relevant because there was a discussion about this on B-Sky, if y'all are paying attention, but to the bullshit that I post. But anyway, there was a post earlier today. It was a really cool discussion post, and it was by like Dee Ward, and who's a really cool person on B-Sky. And the post was, you know, what are your writing sins? And I had made a post that was like, yeah, somebody told me that writing third person like this close is wrong. And this went into a discussion like with a bunch of different people being like, yeah, advice, like, writing is art ultimately. You it's one thing to know the rules so that you can break them, but to nobody actually said this, but I will say this right now because the spirit is there. But a lot of people will tell you, like a lot of pedants, especially specifically, like the people who are like, oh, there's only one true way to write that bullshit. They will always say that you need to know the rules in order to break them. But what they don't ever emphasize is that the before you can break them part. They don't emphasize the before you can break them part. So consequently, you have a bunch of people who are like, the rules are there. You can only write according to the rules, and you're kind of sitting there being like, well, you're also telling me that I can break them eventually after I learn what they are. So here's me breaking the rules. Um, but yeah, going back to the discussion, art is doing whatever you want. Like with every single art style, at some point there were no rules. It's just that people came up with these rules, and for them, it created a solid story. But rules are not flexible enough to conform to the entirety of human experience or artistic voice, you know what I mean? So, like, writing advice is not Bible, and anybody who treats it like that, you're hurting yourself. Stop doing that. But yeah, um, that main discussion was like about how there was this one person, and I don't blame them exactly. I blame the educational system, because this is why you should never major in creative writing, kids. Creative writing courses, I don't know if I've probably actually ranted about this on a different stream, but here's the thing about creative writing courses. They will always teach you, quote unquote, how to write, but they do it in a way that makes you feel like you have to write like that. Every single, like, I went to school for publishing actually, so that was my MA. But because I went to school for publishing in a media college, I my department was in tandem with the creative writers. So I was an MA, but I knew a lot of MFAs, or I interacted with a lot of MFAs. And every single MFA that I knew was trying to fucking write for one of those high-end, highbrow literary magazines. And that's well and good, but it's a singular style that is extremely difficult to achieve, and extremely difficult to achieve correctly. So you are basically setting yourself up to write in a very homogeneous way. You know what I mean? So you stifle your own creativity right out of the gate. And the problem is that they were taught to do this. Like, that is the MFA to literary magazine pipeline in action. And that's what it was back whenever I was doing my master's degree. But I have no doubt that it's still like that, because I see these new MFAs coming out and just being so fucking dead inside. But basically, I'd hate to vague on stream, but like, this person is a lot like a lot of other people that I've met over the course of my various attempts at being a quote unquote writer. But they were very self destructive. They fully believed that they couldn't write, and it's because they had this entire list of rules as to what was bad writing. And eventually I had to stop following them and then put them on mute, because like, it was just a lot of toxicity and a lot of low-key accidentally insulting oneself and literally every writer in the community. So it was just super uncomfortable to watch. And it's like, on the one hand, I kind of feel a little bit for that person. I hope they're doing a lot better. I can't find their blue sky, and therefore I assume that they've deleted. But I hope that they're doing better, and that taking a step away from writing will allow them to come back into it and find a passion for it. Because what they had was not passion. It was ground out of them by the rigidity of their way of thinking. And on the other hand, yeah, it's like, I see myself, like, back when I was their age, I see a lot of people in the fandoms that I left in that, because I came from a very toxic fandom, So there were a lot of people in the fan fiction spaces who thought they could write with a capital W, and were very loud about it, and very they basically used it as an excuse for cyberbullying. And I'm very apologetic about that time period in my life, because I recognize now that, number one, I was incorrect, and that entire philosophy is incorrect. And number two, yeah, I was not a great person to be around, and I was not a good mentor. And number three, good lord, it's fucking miserable just thinking about it. But anyway, that kind of mentality, where you're very much, I know what good writing is like, and you have to write by these rules or else. Um, it, from my experience, it just discourages people more than encourages, and it kills your own passion for writing. So that's why I kind of shy away from the entire concept of writing advice and craft books and things like that. Ultimately, for me, writing is about exploring art and self expression and coming up with something that that expresses this idea that you have in mind. Sometimes the idea is just a silly little story about silly little people, but ultimately it's like this personal thing, and how you go about doing it. There are so many different ways that you can do that it doesn't make sense to treat any advice as Bible. That having been said, advice is advice, and if you're stuck and you need some kind of guidance, that's when you turn to guides like that and people who are talking about their experiences. But never ever treat writing advice as Bible. And furthermore, if you come across anybody who treats their writing advice like by a Bible, just know that they're fucking assholes who don't actually know how to write. Anyway, that having been said, and my final note there is, don't let them kill your vibe, essentially. Like, if somebody gives you unsolicited writing advice and says, hey, this is not the right way to write, the person I was talking about earlier did not do that. However, shit tons of people in my fandom did. The people who did that, fucking dicks. And I hope that, I hope that somehow these words get back to them. Y'all are fucking dicks, and you need to clean up your lives. Stop cyberbullying in the name of writing. Just saying. But anyway, to that person though, you're just hurting yourself. That's all I can say. And towards the end of me following them, they were talking themselves out of writing, and it's like that's what happens whenever you convince yourself that you know what good writing is. And I was there at that age not too long ago, and it took a long amount of therapy and self-reflection to finally pull myself out of it and be like, I need to stop convincing myself that I know shit about writing, and I need to be kinder to myself and just allow myself to do whatever in the name of art. Anyway, back to the chat, which I've kind of ignored up until now. Sorry about that. Cryptic says, I never figure out how to outline. I'm a pantser through and through. Same, Oakley says, same Cryptic. I have friends who do things incredibly meticulously and outline and plan, like, let's ride. And I'm like, let's ride. Oakley says, if brevity is the soul of wit, then I'm a dumbass. Brother. I know that it's probably a bad, I know that it's actually a bad thing, because it's gotten me into trouble at least once in my actual day job. When I'd over-explain and somebody would be like, why are you taking this so personally? I'm like, no, this is just me just trying to explain. Wait, hold on. But yeah, no, 1,000 words where 100 could suffice. We've already demonstrated that tonight. Anyway, Oakleaf says, "Oh no, everything has to be in order because everything builds on the stuff that came before it. I'm feeling my way through the dark with a flashlight, right?" Like, I don't know how my friend over on Tumblr did it. Like, I applaud them, and I wish I had that amount of talent, but I cannot do that for to save my life. Cryptic says, "I write out of order now. I used to not, but I found that it's easier that way, just following the vibes of, well, I know this has to happen right now." I, again, admire anybody who can do that because that means that you are dedicated enough to your vision that you can just be like, stamping it now, set in stone, not going to change it. Like, I wish I had that dedication. Oakleaf says, "Generally, I'm incredibly glad I had the shred of arrogance wisdom not to touch a single creative writing course until halfway through college when I was already pretty confident in my own style. And I still got fucked up by the demand for formula when I tried to go into publishing. I always preface writing advice with, this is how I do things. It may not work for you if it's anything more than general encouragement or like basic punctuation rules." But yeah, 100% about the creative writing courses. Like, I had to take a couple for my MA because my college was like that. But like, and I took a couple in college because I was or like when I was doing my BA because I was convinced I was going to graduate and become the next Celia Plath or something like that. But the main thing is like the thing that I got out of it is that I did just as well not taking the course than I did actually taking the course. I did not learn anything in either of them. Like, the only thing I remember of the BA writing course is Edgar Allan Poe's Rules for Writing, and even then, if you actually sit down and read them, that essay is not as timeless as it sounds. Let's just put it that way. Cryptic says, "When 100 words will do, you can be sure I'll use 10,000. Same. So yeah, that is blessed. I love how we started off the icebreaker with like I love how these discussions, we touch the icebreaker for like maybe 5 seconds and then dive into other things for like 30 minutes. It's great. But yeah, honestly, I kind of hope that helps some people or makes them feel a little bit more at ease. Just being like, yeah, no, you're doing fine. Um, there's no such thing as a right way of doing things. There are so many different ways of writing that can and can't work for how you do things. So Cryptic says, "Hello, the stream started endlessly buffering on my laptop, so I just missed like everything." Oh no. Um by missed like everything, what did at what point did you stop hearing what I was saying? Because I mean, I don't mind because I went off for like 30 minutes about how creative writing courses are terrible and how writing advice should be considered guidelines and not like the Bible or anything like that. But like, if you missed that, dang, dang at your internets. Cryptic says, "It's weird on my phone too." Great. That's kind of weird. I kind of wonder if it's me. Let me see something real quick. I highly doubt it because, like, I don't know. 110 203 kbps. I think that's 0% drop frames. Yeah, I think we're good. I don't know what it is then. That's super weird. Oh hey, I can drop this chat in. I'm discovering things about OBS right now. Oh, that is funky. Oh, I don't like that at all. I'm gonna pull this out. Ooh. Oh, dude, why don't I do this? Dang. Oakleaf says mine looks fine. Okay. So it's probably some kind of weird network thing. Uh, I am so sorry for going through weird network stuff, Cryptic. Anyway, Cryptic says it broke when you said you were getting back to chat. Ah, so that must have been like only a few minutes ago, I think. So you didn't miss too much at all. I think I was just reading off chat and reacting to it as usual. So literally, if you can see chat, that's basically it. Uh, Cryptic says it seems fine now. My laptop is old as fuck, and my phone never stays connected to the Wi-Fi. It's probably me. LOL. Ah, okay. Yeah, and with everything so expensive these days, you can't really do much about that, huh? Like, if a laptop's old as fuck, that's about all you can do. So, anyway, there's some weird stuff trending on Blue Sky right now. Like, what did the mayor of New York do now? Oh, Jesus Christ. No pun intended, because this is about the Jewish holiday. But anyway, it is currently 8:57, which means that we are starting our first sprint in 3 minutes. I'm diving into chapter 4, which is not half bad considering the fact that I started just a few weeks ago. So like I'm satisfied with the progress I'm making. A little bit hesitant because chapter 3 was supposed to end with the transformation, but I've decided to combine chapters because these are chunky boys that I'm going to have to actually trim down later. But we'll see how things go. What's everybody else working on? Oakley says, "Oh yeah, Shana Tova. Shana Tova to you as well, and may this year be good." Uh, it is already starting off a little bit, whoo boy, for me, but whoo boy in a good way. Like there are some things that I need to sort out, but overall, like it's not half bad. Like we're getting somewhere, and I'm delighted for that. Oakleaf says, I'm rereading an old book in a desperate attempt to jumpstart my brain so I can finish Wild West Work in Progress. Oh yeah, I also read your skeet about that. Like, I do hope that you can find the motivation, but it is totally a-okay if not. Feel free to drop the title of that book into the chat, by the way. And Cryptic, what are you up to? Cryptic says, my uncle bought this laptop for me when I was starting college in 2016. It's also Mac, which are known for not lasting in my experience. Really? That's good. I have to admit, well, newer Macs, yes. But I used to have an old Mac. It was slow as shit, but I bought it in 2011, and I was still using it up until 2021 when I finally set it aside for one of the laptops dipshit gave me. Then I gave laptop to him before moving out, and that was probably a terrible idea, but whatever. I have basically scrubbed myself clean of anything that could be tied back to me on there, but yeah. Anyway, Cryptic says, I'm chilling personally. See, kids, this is why I say that you can do literally anything during word sprint. Cryptic is just chilling, which is totally valid. That is progress towards self-care. Having been said, it is currently 9 p.m., so we are going to dive into our first sprint. So, as per usual, if you haven't gotten your liquids, go and get your liquids so you can hydrate during your sprint. If you have everything that you need, come with me and roll your shoulders. Shake out your wrists. Deep breath in and just relax. The hip hop is grooving and everything is a-okay. Breathe out. One more time. Breathe in. And out. 20 minutes are on that clock. Get ready. Get set. And here we go. Alright, that is the first of 3 sprints I can count for sure. How did we do? I did 473, which is not bad considering the fact that I'm jumping in with nothing to transcribe and barely an idea of what I'm doing. But how about all of you? Jumping into chat, let's see. Oakleaf said, in response to my earlier question before the sprint to the waters in the wild, it's the one I was working on at the beginning of this year in previous streams about the trans boy who stumbles into fairy. I think I shared a quote from it last time. Oh, right. I have that on my TBR somewhere. Cryptic says, I'll admit that almost nothing but YouTube works on it anymore, but hey, at least something, lol. Fair enough, yeah. Oakleaf says, my kitten has joined us again. Hello, kitten. And also, honestly, for a Mac computer to last that long is hella impressive. I think the longest I managed to stretch one was about 8 years, and it was not happy about it, lol. Oh yeah, if we're talking about the one that I got and used for about 10 years, mine wasn't either. But it definitely lasted longer than a lot of my Windows-based computers. Granted, like the ones I've gotten now have not been so bad. Like even the Razer laptop was actually functioning. It just had a battery that wanted to literally explode. But the Asus one that I have now is actually pretty sturdy, I feel like. But before then, before I started using Macs, I would go through like what I had a compact back in high school, which accidentally dates me, whatever, and it like died within a year. Then I had a Dell in college that I had to basically reboot every couple of years because of one thing or another. And after like 5 years, its screen died. And then for grad school, I had bought a different Asus, which is why I'm staring at this one pointedly, and its hard drive just failed. And when I say hard drive, I mean 2 hard drives. Like within a month of me starting to use it, starting grad school and whatnot, the first drive failed, and then the second one, the one that I had bought to replace the hard drive, also failed. So that was fun. But, thinking about it also, like, part of the reason why that Mac lasted so long is because the Genius Bar was very kind to me. And this was back whenever things were a little bit cheaper. So, like, I would have, like, hard drive fails on that as well, but I would take it in and they'd be like, cool, we're just going to replace the hard drive. Is that A-okay? I'd be like, cool, do whatever. And, like, so technically it did die a couple of times, but I'd get it back and it just existed with me for 10 years like that. I would just, anytime anything else would go wrong with it, I'd take it back to the Genius Bar and be like, hey, can you hook me up with a new hard drive? And they would be like, sure, do you have $100? I'd be like, yeah, cool. So I guess it's, now that you mention it, it didn't last that long. Anyway. Cryptic says, oh yeah, I don't shut it off because it takes multiple days to stop chugging when I restart it. And the bad thing is, like, if you do that, then it dies. Then a computer dies faster, or at least like you fuck up the battery. So it's like that's the downside about having laptops. Like, so many things can go wrong with them, and yet we're all, as a society, kind of like shoved towards laptops. It's so bad. Like, when I have a little bit more money, like whenever I pay off dipshits debts and whatnot, I want to actually invest it in a desktop. Like, there are brands that will let you basically IKEA your own desktop. There's one that one of my techie friends had suggested to me, and I can't even remember what the name of it is, but it's like, it's a kit and you build it yourself, but it's a desktop. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like that would be more reliable because, number one, you're not dragging it everywhere. Number two, it's built to actually last, ironically enough. So I don't know. I kind of am an advocate of desktops. We should all go back to desktops. Like, nobody actually. I'd say that even though I shouldn't generalize, but like, how many people actually take their laptops out and actually use them as laptops these days? Like, sure, we all have one. Okay, yeah, I'm incorrect here. We all have a laptop for work, and I know of a lot of people who do that because I'm a New Yorker, and of course I do. Like, you can't go into any fucking coffee shop and have at least five, the 50% of the tables being occupied by somebody on quote unquote laptop. Actually, they're mostly pads these days, aren't they? Like, they're tablets. Everybody's on a tablet, and they've got like little keyboards, and that's what they're using instead of actual laptops. Nobody's taking an actual laptop. So, um, Cryptic says, finish the dungeon I was in my game. Oh, I started. So, which game are you playing, out of curiosity? Also, Cryptic says, oh, I started not turning it off after the battery stopped holding in charge. Right? Like, laptops are not built to last. They are built to be used for a couple of years and then you get a new one because that's what shitification is. They want you to have the new stuff. So, laptops are cheaper, but consequently, you're spending more on them because they're thin as shit and they will break if you look at them the wrong way. Cryptic says this old thing is constantly plugged in, lol. O'Keefe says, I have never had a desktop. A lot of people nowadays have never had a desktop. Like, there is an entire generation of people who have never had a desktop. And it's partly because it's fucking expensive these days. Like, have you ever actually looked at the prices for a desktop? Like, the one that I was talking about earlier is $2,000. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm dating myself again, but I remember back when you had advertisements for like old Dell computers sold in like those cow print boxes that were $200, like $299 total. Like, it wasn't a monthly charge; it was $299. Um, but and we were happy with that. It ran kind of like shit because it was a Dell computer, but nonetheless, it did what it set out to do, and it lasted. It was great. Uh, but nowadays, it's like you can't buy a desktop without dropping like at least a full rent payment on just like the starting kit, and then you have to upgrade it and stuff like that. And it's like, why bother these days? Like, I understand why people only have laptops, but it's still dumb as shit. The entire industry is a fucking scam, but as most industries are. Anyway, hey, we've got into the socialist commentary of the evening. Cryptic says Oblivion Remastered. I have yet to play that, but I've heard it's really good, and I am delighted that you're enjoying yourself. Congratulations on finishing the dungeon, by the way. Cryptic says, I could not live without a desktop, lol. Gateway, yes, Gateway, thank you. Cryptic, like, I don't even remember the actual commercials. I'm pretty sure that they had, like, one of those zany, super souped up white dudes who were like all over the place, as most 90s mascots were for some reason. And I'm sure that they had a jingle, but all I can remember is the goddamn cow print box. Cryptic says, I remember the old cow print gateway computers. That was my first one when I was a kid. I don't feel as old anymore. Thank you for this. Oakleaf says, I don't think we're much different in age unless I've calculated very poorly, but yeah, we just weren't a computer household. Cryptic says, it's really good, but apparently even high-end computers are having a hard time running it, and the settings and for visuals on my Steam Deck are on low. Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? Because, like, I've noticed that with modern gaming. You have this problem with Final Fantasy and MMOs in general as well, where the graphics are so good that they accidentally exclude anything that isn't a gaming specific computer. It's the wildest thing. Like, my old computer, like the old MacBook that I used to play on, Uh, the old MacBook that I was playing on back when I first started Final Fantasy could handle Endwalker kind of sort of okay. It kind of glitched the fuck out in terms of its graphics. Its graphics card had a hissy fit whenever we got to like the end boss of that expansion with all the fucking graphics everywhere. It was fucking beautiful. But then Dawn Trail came along and they had like this benchmark, and I'm sure that every single expansion has one, but I missed every other one. But this one, they were like, no, you need to do the benchmark, because if you don't do the benchmark, there's a very good chance you can't play. So I did the benchmark, and by this time I was on my Razer laptop, and it was sputtering with this thing. It was incredible. Like, the graphics were so dope, but dang, it was not happy. And then I tried to do it on my MacBook, and my MacBook's like, haha, we can't even fucking play the opening cutscene for this. And I think the point is, like, you have these high-end graphics and these high-end graphics and these high-end, and everybody's like, ooh, our stuff is so ritzy and so cool and so graphics intensive, and you need this high-end graphics card to do it. And it's like, at some point, you're just saying that you're making something that literally nobody can partake in except the ultra rich, which I know sounds like the point, but it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, why would you put out something that nobody can play, right? So I'm very frustrated with the modern gaming landscape. But that having been said, I do want to play Oblivion at some point. Baldur's Gate as well. That's on my list. But I've heard that it's not as bad in terms of graphics. It's shiny, but still. So we'll see. Cryptic says there's also some choices that were made for NPCs that go against lore, so you can kind of tell they had an outside of studio make it if you know Elder Scrolls lore. That's disappointing. What is with modern gaming anyway? Like, all this, like... I mean, I shouldn't say that, because, like... all the games that I love also had their fun share of lore and contradictory lore. Cryptic says, to be clear, my computer can mostly handle BG3 with a few occasional hiccups. That's good. So that's probably a good indication that I don't have nothing to worry about if I want to play BG3. However, Oblivion, I mean, I do have a gaming laptop right now that is well updated and can supposedly handle that shenanigans. So hopefully, you know, Oblivion won't be as bad for me as well. But, like, I don't know, something about the idea that it's so high end it excludes people kind of turns me off. Like, I know that's the stupidest thing to be turned to make me feel like I don't want to play a game, but at the same time, Cryptic says, but yeah, with Oblivion, I'd honestly just say either get the OG or wait until the Skyblivion mod for Skyrim comes out. Got it. Which technically means you will still need to own Oblivion, but still. I mean, that's understandable. Like, I mean, hopefully you don't pay for mods. Like, I've never heard of a game that would make you pay for mods, but nonetheless, so... Side point, but I've checked Blue Sky, and I'm just delighted that people are like people are giving me reasons to take pictures of Benjamin. This ad came out pretty late in the day, I have to admit, because it was pretty hectic towards the end of the day for me. Like, the main thing about my job is that it's dead in the morning, and then all of a sudden, like, everything dogpiles me. So it's sort of like I was like solidly working from 1 p.m. all the way up to 5 p.m. and it was fun. Oh, let me just redo that. There we go. Cool. But in any case, yeah, so I kind of feel like I didn't give myself enough time tonight to put out the daily Benjamin ad, but I'm still delighted with how that came out. Like, I really wanted, maybe, I'm thinking about starting a side Instagram of just Benjamin pics. I have so many of them by now, and they're all so cute, and I'm sure that people will like that. But, that means actually being active on Instagram and actually having multiple accounts because I want to keep my writing one. So we'll see. Cryptic says, oh yeah, Skyblivion is free, but to use some of the voice work from the OG, they need to read those files from your computer, meaning it won't run if you don't have both games installed. Oh, okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. It's like a client for the game. You see that in WoW, I think, where I have friends who play WoW, and they play variations of WoW. Like, I know one person who does WoW hard mode and WoW gauntlet and somehow a WoW D&D. It's kind of intense, but all of those are really just clients of the main game. Or I guess a better example would be Minecraft, where you have you have the base game Minecraft that you actually do have to buy, and then you have Feed the Beast, or I don't know, Pixelmon, where you download. It's not just like a patch or a mod, but like an entire full-on client, and it reads the files of Minecraft, and you're playing basically Minecraft, but it overlays some rules and is basically its own separate game. So that makes sense. Cryptic says, do the account dedicated to BPix. I'm very tempted. Oakleaf says, BRB, not sure if I'll be back by the end of the sprint, but hopefully we'll be back before the end of the stream. Totally cool. And do it, we love Benjamin. I will see if I can do it during the weekend. I have a handful of plans that I need to enact this weekend, but you know, it's going to be lousy in terms of weather, so I'm not doing anything else. I have basically a free Sunday, so we'll see. Cryptic says, that's how they can legally make Oblivion in Skyrim. Fascinating. Yeah, I might look into it more. Like, I've been holding back on buying new games because financial reasons. But, as I'm paying things down, just finances are slowly becoming a thing that I can play with slowly. But we'll see. Cryptic says, also it's very different mechanically, but I would definitely say play Morrowind 2. It's so good. I have for sure an entire list of games that I want to play, so I'll add that to the list as well. But yes. Anyway, yes, thank you for the rec. I will definitely keep that in mind. And also, it is currently 9:40. We have gotten past our usual 15-minute break, so hopefully y'all are very well rested. Which means that it is just about time for sprint number 2. Cryptic says, it's horribly hard, but in the funnest way. I'm down for games like that, so I would not shy away from the challenge for sure. Anyway, let's do it. Stream number 2. 20 minutes on the clock. And if you haven't yet rested. Take at least the first 5 minutes to do so. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. But 20 minutes on the clock. I will see you on the other side. Get ready, get set, and here we go. hello, new person. Uh, Dark Sidious had just joined, and they have asked, "Are you writing a book?" And my answer is yes. We are actually nearing the end of our second word sprint of the night. There are three of them, in fact, in total. So if you're working on something, feel free to plop it into the chat. I will be with you in just a moment. All right, that is sprint number 2. So how did we do? I had actually covered 411 words, which again is not bad. So heck yeah. Let's see. Turning back to the chat. Oh, actually, that was the last thing said. Cryptic says, BRB, gotta feed the cats. That is totally a-okay. I assume that Oakleaf is still BRB as well. Dark Sidious says, nice. I also, please let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name, or if there's a name that you would rather go by. Feel free to drop those into the chat. But otherwise, hello and nice to meet you. Sorry I was kind of quiet for a second there. Word sprints, you know, am I right? In any case, nice. I've always wanted to write a book, and I just started a story about Greek mythology. Heck yeah. What specifically about Greek mythology? Because Greek retellings, I know, have been quite a hot topic lately, and personally, I kind of think that they're all pretty rad. Like, I do love me some stories about gods. Also, I have known so many people who have been super into Greek and Roman mythology, and they would come up with the coolest story ideas. Darkseia says you're saying it right. Excellent, excellent. So yeah, expound about your idea because I am here for it. Also, welcome to Night Rights. I'd hate to go through the entire spiel, but basically this is like a casual writing hangout. So I am writing a book. You can see that on your screen right now. It is a fantasy novel. It's about a guy who turns into a dragon and shenanigans ensue. But this is also a really cool. This is a really chill hangout. There are people who aren't necessarily writing here, but I am absolutely welcoming of people who do and would love to have more writers in. So I do word sprints, 3 of them nights. So you came at the end of the second one, so there's going to be one more in probably more than 15 minutes because I tend to go off and chatter. So if you're thinking about it, I'm just saying this is a good time to get started. Dark Sidious says a demigod named Luna. Ooh, okay. Do go on about Luna. I'm curious. Like, okay, so Luna would indicate moon god. So what goes on with Luna? What's Luna all about? Cryptic says I'm back. That was a very quick boy feeding right there. I am just imagining your cat like wolfing things down right now. Dark City says yay. Hell yeah, yay. Cryptic says, I'm playing video games while totally not putting off my writing. That is totally valid. Also, I can't say that you were just chilling in the in the first stream, or sorry, the first word sprint, because you just said that you were playing Oblivion in the first sprint. But, yeah, that is what goes down during the word sprints. For me, they are 100% writing and editing. So, like, every time you come in, I will be working on some kind of thing that you can kind of sort of read on your screen. Maybe, hopefully, the screen quality is good enough. You are free to. You're not going to get the entire story because I only do these once a week. But for me, they'll always be word sprints. But for you, they can be anything you want. I am going to enable another writer, especially one who's doing Greek mythology, and I will say you should totally join me for writing. It's a lot of good fun, and I will definitely encourage you. And, you know, just word sprints are really cool anyway, so. But if you want to do anything else, like during the sprint, if you want to chat with the other people who are here, or if you want to do I don't know, long form smash poetry on the chat, you can do that too, so long as you know you don't violate YouTube TOS and you're chill with other people. But anyway, Cryptic has done everything from have dinner to play video games during those sprints, and those count as productivity because self-care is still productive? You get what I mean. But anyway, Dark Sidious says, I only have a little bit of the story, but I'm planning on working on it this weekend. Heck yeah. Out of curiosity, are you on Blue Sky, or did you just happen across this YouTube? Because if you're on Blue Sky, you know, I will totally be a cheerleader for all of my moots. So feel free to hit these up. Feel free to hit me up if you want. If you don't want, you know, feel free to come during these streams. They happen every Tuesday, and you can check in, and I will cheer you on. But if you don't feel like it, if I'm doing too hard of a sell, I have a tendency to do that. I still wish you the best of luck with outlining and coming up with ideas. I love that little new stage where you have just the vibes and you're about to dive into something. So, roundabout way of saying, I am wishing you the absolute best of luck with this new idea. Cryptic says, yeah, we have fun in these streams. We do. I do warn you that sometimes I just straight up go off. The first half an hour of this stream, for example, was me ranting about how writing advice is all guidelines, and anybody who tells you that they're Bible and how dare you not obey their writing advice is probably trying to sell you something, ironically. But there will also be communist rants and other fun stuff. It gets funny and ranty during these, or at least I like to think that it's somewhat entertaining and educational. I cannot say that for certain. But in any case, Darksedia says, no, I'm on YouTube. Totally A-okay. I am popping open YouTube as we speak. Let me make sure that I'm in the right window for that. Go to channel. Oh, snap. Cool. Subscribing back. There we go. Cryptic says, I'm entertained. I am delighted that you're entertained. Because somebody has to put up with all these shenanigans. If I don't have somebody to inflict these shenanigans on, God knows what happens. Or at least, actually, we have proof of what happens. I think it was a couple weeks ago when you weren't around and Oakley wasn't around. So it was sort of like me and a few ghost listeners, and it was chaotic. So chaotic, I don't even remember what I was saying during that stream. Yay! Darksia says, yeah, I have fun. I came across this after my basketball game and cheering for my boyfriend. Aww. Hopefully y'all won that basketball game, because if so, congratulations. But yeah, I'm super glad that you drifted in. Welcome to this shenanigans. But yeah. So absolutely, feel free to continue on about this story idea that you have. Other than that, what else can I say about this stream? It's definitely a fun time. Um, there are rants to be had. I do admit that they may be a little bit sailor laden, so I apologize that if I should not be saying things. Darksia says, no, we lost, but my boyfriend won his game. Well, congratulations to your boyfriend, at least. And so long as you had fun, that's A-okay, too. Because basketball is indeed rad. And I actually envy anybody who plays, because I have no eye-hand coordination. But in any case, yeah, so basically, hello. In other words, nice to meet you. My name is Jax. As you probably know from the channel, that is my actual pen name, Jax Wolf. I'm on various social medias. I have not actually published anything yet. What you're seeing is going to be hopefully a debut. My plan is basically to eventually self-publish. Well, it's currently up in the air. Actually, I'm on draft 6, as you can also see by the side of your screen. But there are a couple of different routes that I can go with this. Right now, it's kind of like a complicated, fun time, as I will explain now and then on the stream. So it might be self-published if I have the money to do it. If I don't have the money to do it, I will seek out an agent, but it is not going to be for some time. But yes, what you see on your screen is 100% intended on becoming a book eventually. It is a fantasy romance, really. As I said, it's about a guy who turns into a dragon and shenanigans ensue. He has a mad crush on the other character in this little that you see on your screen. Her name is Eleanor. She is an elf who is highborn. And the main character is a commoner. This is all Edwardian age shenanigans, so it's like an entire complicated world. I could go off, but the main pitch is guy turns into a dragon, shenanigans ensue. He has to essentially stop a war from a divine war from erupting, because the gods do not want the dragons to continue existing. They represent a dead god who threatens all of existence. So it's a lot of politics, it's a lot of romance, it's a lot of shenanigans, but it's like not exactly a chosen one because he doesn't go out and fight a war. He convinces other people to come together and essentially fight their own battles and band together to stop what is considered to be inevitability, to stop these powers. And oh, okay, Dark Sidious had just Dark Sidious is like, I have to go to sleep now, but I'll try to watch next Tuesday. Good night. Yes. Well, that all right, so I don't have to continue introducing myself. Hell yeah, because I am super awkward about that. But yes, good. If Dark Sidious is still in chat, good night. It was great meeting you. I do hope that you catch up with us next Tuesday. If you're already gone, I do hope that they're looking at my description because that's where the times are. If you're still here, though, it's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when we start, and 9 p.m. is our very first word sprint. So there we go. It also occurs to me that I do a shit job at describing my work in progress, which is not a great thing, but I mean, coming up with the synopsis is a problem that I will have to eventually overcome if I plan on querying this. Not synopsis, but blurb, essentially. That is going to be a problem that I will eventually have to overcome if I plan on querying, or even if I plan on making this a book you can hold, because blurbs are a thing that are used to put that you put on the back of the book / on the storefront listing. However, I am only 4 chapters into the latest draft, so that is a problem for tomorrow me. In the meantime, I am going to describe it as shittily as possible because it is still coming together, ladies and gentlemen. Cryptic says, I mean, that didn't seem like the worst description to me. That is very true. I have done worse to describe this. I have really borked up pitch lines on pitch events. So that was, it described things that happen, and it described most of the things I haven't yet changed. So yay. Yeah, I think that's the main problem with the pitch events and why I've kind of pulled away. Let me just take that off because we're basically done with the long break timer. But anyway, if y'all are following me on Blue Sky, you'll know that I have taken a break from pitch events. If you also subscribe to my Beehive newsletter, which you should also do because I post things like short stories and snippets that are not available anywhere else and are available to members only on Beehive. But in any case, I mentioned it there, and I mentioned it on Blue Sky today because today is in Hinge Pit, which gets announced like 2 days in advance, and I'm not very about that, let's just say. But in any case, I have been taking a break from pitch events for a couple of reasons. Number one, it feels like I'm pitching the same book over and over again, and I feel like I worry that people are getting tired of hearing about this same book and the same pitches over and over again. I know that there are some people who have been pitching the same book as well again and again, and they're doing just fine, or they have no hesitation about doing it, but for me, it's just sort of awkward. But also, what the book was in draft 5 is vastly different from what the book was in draft 4, which was the draft that went to betas, is so different. Like, it's barely considered. There are still definitely romantic elements. And as I'm writing it out long form and including Mick's inner monologue in it, it is feeling more like a romance than the trash draft 5 was. But it also kind of feels a little bit more fantasy-like than romance. So it's not even, and even then, like, it's no longer really about preventing the war. Like, he is preventing it or trying to work towards minimal damage as much as possible, but it's sort of like he's not taking control of the dragons. He's not like running around Eldana trying to find a way to undo his curse. He is there in Sanctuary and he's like leading the dragons. And he's like, okay. The difference is that he's like, I'm not a soldier and I'm not one of you, so you do not. I should not be the one you turn to for this. So I'm going to arm you and like uplift you and teach you and reinvigorate your will to live and fight so that you can then decide what to do from there. And on the side, when it comes to the gods that they can't fight, he's like, I am going to do my best to convince you to turn to my side. And the more that I do that, the more that we grow in power, so that eventually we convince the main goddess to stop what she's doing. So that's it's a little bit spoilery what I just said, but that is the main gist of it. Basically, Mick himself is not like a traditional chosen one, because I love and hate chosen one stories in that sense. Like anytime you have like this revolution, this rebellion, you have this one character who's like this badass who rises and becomes this incredible fighter who leads the charge in war, and it's sort of like at some point you just get tired of being told, you know, only one person can change the tide of war and stuff like that, because it's a great power fantasy and great escapism, but I've ranted about this before, for sure. It's also not it's not what all revolutions should look like. It's not even what most revolutions actually look like. A lot of successful revolutions don't have just one figurehead taking up arms, especially taking up arms. They'll often have a lot of different important figures who are inspiring the public to take up arms and fight and stand up and push back. So that's really the message that I want to preserve. It's not like the war isn't revolving around one character. It is one character inspiring every other character to push onward. So and the whole thing about gods is because I created these 12 characters, and while a lot of them are gods of war and fighting, and there's a lot of violence, I just like the idea of responding to that by being like, yeah, I could fight you, but, you know, what if I convinced you to see things my way? And it's like, that's the part that's like not actually realistic, because you can't convince some people to stop being terrible people, let's just say. But at the same time, it's sort of like I don't want to send the message that Mick is a soldier. He's not supposed to be a soldier. He's not really supposed to be this huge fighter, because then it becomes every other revolution story where it's centered around one badass character who resolves everything with brute force. What I want him to be is a diplomat, like somebody who resolves things with well-placed words and plans. So that's honestly the biggest thing that's really makes me want to finish this story, at least book one. It's going to be a setup for a larger world and whatnot, so I can't, and the bad thing about this is I can't guarantee that the other books will actually exist, especially if I decide to go traditional with this, and that does concern me a little bit, because book 1 is just like him going up against 2 of the 10 gods. And that's like not the full story. There are some things that happened well on down the line that I can't even talk about right now. But so I am a little bit worried about that. But like I still do want to tell the full thing. I just hope that I do it justice. But in any case, that is the full story. That is my ramble for the evening. Man, it is currently 10:25, or sorry, 10:24. In another minute or so, we can start in on the very last sprint of the day. I gotta say though, this night went by so quickly. So thank you for joining me on this. But I do have to admit I'm a little bit nervous. I've got a lot going on tomorrow that is going to be a lot to sort out. But that is adult life, I guess. But in any case. Third sprint of the night. So, 20 minutes on the clock. I do wish y'all the best of times. Hopefully comes back. They were hoping that they wouldn't miss the last sprint of the night. So, fingers crossed, Oakleaf pops back up. But hey, it's a-okay if not. But in any case, I'm stalling. 20 minutes on the clock. I will see you on the other side and we'll talk about the coming week. Get ready, get set, and let's go. Okay, that is the last sprint of the night. How did we do? I have to admit that I keep on getting distracted. It has been a very long day, and yet I still managed to do 565 words. That is not half bad. So I'm proud of myself. But how did the rest of you do? Is Oakleaf back? Did Cryptic make more progress on video games? But in any case, while folks are replying, I will tell you about. Oh, Cryptic says leveled up in my game, so there's that. Hell yeah, level up that character. I have no idea who I'm gonna be. I absolutely will need to decompress after this. It's been an interesting week so far. Like I said, I did get a good news email. But it's a good news email that comes with a lot of nerve stuff. Uh, just wish me luck and offer good vibes for the rest of the week. That's all I'm going to be saying straight off the bat. But on top of that, like, I have a lot going on tomorrow. There's this huge amount of work. Like, normally I like to get most of my work done and then log off. But this is the first time in a long while where I had tried to get most of my work done, and then because it all came in all at once at the very end of the day, which I am super frustrated about, and I could only do so much. And then my manager is like pinging me on Slack after I log off, being like, "Hey, you're gonna prioritize this." And I'm like, "That is why we have fucking Asana, girl." But that is a work rant. But in any case, I know that I have like 60 million things to do right off the bat in the morning. And then in the evening, I have a thing. Somewhere in between that, I have to send off an email to sort something out. So it's sort of like, and Wednesdays are my pay all the bills days, especially since this is the end of the month, so a lot of things are due. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff is going to be happening tomorrow. The rest of the week looks somewhat easier, but But we'll see. But yeah, and then Wednesday are raid nights. So there's adult thing in the afternoon slash early evening, and then immediately into raid night. So it's like going to be nonstop action all day tomorrow. And then the rest of the week, it's going to be like, oh my god, now I can breathe. So that's going to be fun. But in terms of schedule, as usual, I will say this actually right now. Uh, Cryptic says, I hope tomorrow doesn't suck too bad. I hope so too. I'm very nervous about a lot of things about tomorrow, but I'm just going to rest, relax, and do fiddle about on Minecraft for the rest of the night until I can calm down enough to go and get decent sleep. But in terms of schedule, I actually do have to say that the streams might be moving. Right now, my raid team on Final Fantasy, which is the only thing that I do at nights besides write. So I have usually an hour of writing before I do video game stuff to wrap up the day. Uh, but right now, schedules are bouncing everywhere. We can only raid 2 hours on Wednesdays, and then Mondays, it's sort of like the day when a handful of us get on and we screw around. But it's kind of funny because half the raid team. That Wednesday is basically those 2 hours on Wednesday are basically the only time that everybody can come together to raid. But we're realizing it's hurting our motivation and our ability to progress in various things. And yes, this is serious business. Final Fantasy high-end content is serious business, guys. But in any case, half the raid team can't do Mondays. The other half can't do Thursdays through Sundays. So now they're all like, well, Tuesday's free, right? And I'm like, fuck. So I might be moving the stream day. It's still up in the air. We're still doing discussions. I'm going to put in a little note to the raid leader and be like, hey, yeah, I do writing streams on Tuesdays, but I guess I can probably move those. I'm very open otherwise. The only reason why I do them on Tuesdays is because I was under the impression that nobody else does anything on Tuesdays. But that is a roundabout way of saying dates might be shifting. But for now, uh, you can expect the next stream to be Tuesday. Actually, let me also discuss the rest of the week, essentially, to give you an idea. So Wednesdays is raid nights, right? Thursdays tend to be a D&D night, with actually half the raid team. These are my buddies. These are the people who are keeping me alive. It's great. But so that's what goes on Thursdays. Saturdays, first Saturday of every month, I'm usually out in the city, so that's why you never see me. Then there's the second Sunday of every month. I'm out in the city, so that's why weekends tend to be hit or miss. Like one of those days is usually I fuck around and do nothing day, and the other one is let's go into the city and have fun day. Then Mondays it's like raid team sometimes wants to do things, sometimes they don't. It's kind of like a fun little surprise. Then you have Tuesdays, and then so on and so forth. But so we're going to see. There's a likelihood that I end up giving up Tuesdays, at which point the stream will either move to Monday or Friday. It depends on what the rest of the raid team is doing. But I will keep you in the loop about that and give you plenty of notice. But for now, next Tuesday is going to be our next stream. There's a potential for a surprise stream, and if so, keep in hit that little bell to be notified if I do go streaming, or follow me on Blue Sky. Usually, I announce Blue Sky or extra streams on Blue Sky midday, so that's one way to keep up with what goes on in here. But right now, I don't really have too many plans for the rest of the week beyond like all the shenanigans that are going down on tomorrow, and a few adulting things I have to do on Saturday. Like Saturday's again going to be blocked off, I guess. It's not the first of the month on Nah, we're still in September. So very likely, again, weekend's going to be off limits, but there might be something either Thursday or Friday we're going to see. So keep an eye on Blue Sky or hit that bell to be notified. But if not, for sure, you will hear again from me on Tuesday, next Tuesday. And just out of funsies and curiosity, let me see what Tuesday is going to be. Oh, Tuesday is going to be September 30th, so it's going to be the last day. So that's going to be fun. But, the last day of the month, I mean. So that's going to be fun. Other than that, you know, I think that's about it. Again, please send good vibes because I'm probably going to need them. But, other than that, you know, I will see you again Tuesday. Hopefully. Thank you again for dropping by the stream. It's always fun to hang out with you guys and do writing and rant at you and just in general chill and vibe. I hope to see you again, same bat time, same bat place, next Tuesday. Until then, I do hope that you have an excellent week and that good things come your way. It is the first day of the new Jewish year, and apparently the first day after Rapture. Congratulations, none of you got whisked away to God's nowhere. Welcome to the after party, I guess. So yes, I hope good things come your way for the rest of the week. Love y'all. And I will see you on Tuesday. Take care.